Hey guys, imagine this. You're standing in the middle of the desert. Boots cracked, tongue dry, blisters layered over blisters. The sun isn't just hot, it's cruel, like it wants to peel your skin off for fun. Your uniform stinks, your gear weighs more than your regrets. And the guy next to you don't know his name, you don't ask. Because names don't matter here. Only the mission. Only the Legion. And if you think this is some elite brotherhood where you find purpose and redemption, think again. This is the French Foreign Legion. And it doesn't care who you used to be. It only cares if you survive. And most of you wouldn't last a day. If you want more stories like this, give it a like and hit that subscribe button. It helps us keep making these. Now close your eyes. You're not safe anymore. You're not in your bed. You're standing in formation, in silence. And someone's screaming at you in a language you don't understand. Let's begin. You stand in line. Not proudly, not confidently. You stand like a question mark. Back crooked, eyes wide, boots too new, mind too soft. You're not ready, and they know it. This isn't a welcome ceremony. There's no band, no flag, no handshake. There's just shouting in French, in Serbian, in Arabic, in anger. You don't understand the words, doesn't matter. You understand the tone. It means, you're mine now. You glance left. A guy with a shaved head and a scar down his neck stares back like he's memorizing your weaknesses. You glance right. Someone's throwing up discreetly into their sleeve. No one reacts. That's the Legion way. Keep standing, keep sweating, keep your mouth shut. The sergeant walks the line, slowly. Boots thudding like a metronome for fear. He stops in front of you. Stares. Doesn't blink. Says something in French that might have been a threat or a joke. You nod anyway. He smirks like he knows you didn't understand. Behind him, a man collapses. Heat stroke. No one moves. That's not your job. You stand, still, silent. Because they told you, if you move without permission, you leave without teeth. The sun climbs higher. Your spine sags lower. Your tongue sticks to your gums like old glue. Your water bottle is full, but you don't drink. Not unless they tell you to. And they won't. You hear it again. Volontaire. Volunteer. That's what they call you. But you're not here to volunteer. You're here to disappear. Nobody joins the French Foreign Legion because they're doing great. They join because they ran out of places to hide. A guy 2 rows down looks like he hasn't slept in a week. Tattooed knuckles, old bruises, hollow eyes. He whispers, Ukraine, twice, then shuts up. You weren't expecting confessions, but you start counting anyway. Mercenaries, criminals, runaways. A guy who speaks only Russian but knows how to strip an AK faster than you can tie your boots. Another with a British accent and a face that says ex-special forces but with a silence that screams don't ask. Then there's you. No tattoos, no war stories. Just a suitcase full of shame and a passport you're hoping they never check. The sergeant calls for push-ups. You drop. Hands in the gravel, face inches from red dust. They don't count reps. They count failures. Every time your elbows tremble, he screams. Every time your back sags, he screams louder. You push until your vision blurs, until the heat stops being heat and starts being punishment. Someone faints next to you, face first into the dirt. The corporal steps over him. Keeps counting, eventually someone else moves wrong. Wrong place, wrong time, wrong twitch. The sergeant drags him to the side. No explanation, just a fist to the gut. Then another. Then silence. You want to look away. You don't. Not because you're brave, because you're afraid to be next. After an hour or maybe 10, they tell you to stand. You try. Your legs argue. Your spine rebels. You stand anyway. Welcome to la sélection, hero. This is where they decide if you're Legion material. Spoiler, you're not. They march you to a shed. Call it a dorm. It's not. It's a cinder block prison with cots and spiders and 2 broken fans that don't move air, just noise. You drop your pack. Someone barks. You don't drop it, you place it. Too late. They make you do 20 push-ups, then make everyone else do 22. Because of you. Now everyone hates you. A guy spits near your foot. Another mutters something in Polish. You don't need a translator. It means, don't sleep near me. Dinner is rice. No sauce, no salt, no questions. Eat or don't. No one cares. You sit across from a man with no eyebrows. He smiles with all teeth, no friendliness. He says, day one always breaks the soft ones. You don't reply. Because if you talk now, the crack in your voice might become a break in your soul. Someone screams outside. You hear boots, yelling, a body thudding against metal. No one flinches. This is normal. This is day one. Lights out means nothing. The heat keeps you awake. So does the snoring. So does the adrenaline. So does the crushing certainty that you made a mistake. You lie there, staring at the ceiling, wondering how many others are doing the same, wondering how many will be gone by morning. Not dead, just gone. You close your eyes and try to breathe, but your body doesn't feel like yours anymore. It belongs to them now, the Legion, and they haven't even started breaking you yet. You wake up to shouting, not an alarm, not a whistle, just volume, French, loud, angry, a language that sounds like it was designed to insult you even when it's just giving directions. You don't understand what they're saying, but it doesn't matter. Your body understands better than your brain. It's time to move. You roll off the cot, your back cracks, your legs spasm. You slept in your boots. You didn't mean to, you just didn't know the rule. And here's rule number 1 in the Legion. There are no rules. Just punishments. You file out of the barracks with the others. No talking, no smiling. Not even eye contact. Someone in line smells like fear, or piss, or both. You make it outside. The sky's still dark, but the heat's already rising like a threat. And that's when they give it to you, the uniform. Not crisp, not clean, not sacred. Just olive drab and the smell of someone else's sweat. The boots don't fit. The pants are too short. The belt's frayed. You're wearing someone else's past and probably their punishment too. There's no ceremony. They toss it at you like trash. You hold it in your arms and stare down at it like it might tell you who wore it before you. It doesn't. Just cotton, thread, and stains that don't come out. You put it on. It feels wrong. Like a lie trying to dress itself up as pride. But it's the only skin you're allowed to wear now. They line you up again. A full hour of adjusting collars, tucking shirts, fixing creases. If your sleeve is folded wrong, push-ups. If your buttons aren't fastened in the Legion way, more push-ups. If your boots aren't shined, which is hilarious since they came pre-destroyed. You don't want to know. There's a mirror in the mess hall. Cracked. Hung at an angle like even it gave up trying to care. You catch a glimpse of yourself, and for a second you look like a soldier. Then you look closer. The eyes give it away. Still too wide, still too soft, still waiting for someone to say, you don't have to do this. But they won't, because you already did. You try standing straight, chest out, chin up. A corporal walks past and slaps your helmet from behind. Hard. You're not proud, you're present, he snaps in English. Present. That's your only value here. You're not important. You're inventory. The guy next to you sneezes. No one says, bless you. He does push-ups until he throws up. They inspect your boots next. You spent 20 minutes trying to clean them with a rag and spit. Not enough. The instructor grabs your foot, holds it up like a failed science experiment, and says something in French that makes 3 others laugh. You don't laugh. You just drop and start pushing. It's automatic now. You don't think why. You just count. 1, 2, 3. You're trying to learn the numbers. At least then, you'll know how many more push-ups you have to do before your arms give out. Later, they teach you how to fold your uniform the correct way. It involves angles, symmetry, precision, and the kind of mental torture that belongs in a geometry class taught by Satan. You get it wrong. Everyone does. So everyone suffers. You fold it again. They scream again. You sweat again. By the end of the lesson, you hate cloth. You hate shirts. You hate everything. You wear the uniform all day, marching, sweating, fainting, coughing. They make you sit in formation while the sun bakes you like dough on a forgotten stove. You feel a blister forming just from standing still. Your socks are soaked. Your skin itches, but you don't move. That's the trap. The Legion doesn't punish mistakes. It punishes movement. You stand there thinking about your life before this. About air conditioning. About laughter. About shirts that didn't smell like misery. You wonder if anyone back home would recognise you in this uniform. Probably not. And if they did, they wouldn't be proud. They'd be afraid. Because this isn't a costume. It's a warning. A man with eyes like smoke and hands like brick stands in front of you during lunch. He taps your name tag. You are not that name anymore, he says. You nod, because what else is there to do? You eat quietly. Rice. Again. Maybe beans. You can't taste anything anymore. Someone tries to make a joke in Spanish. No one laughs. Humour doesn't survive here. Back in the shed, you fold the uniform again, this time perfectly. Or maybe not. You won't know until morning. You sit on your cot and stare at the boots lined up by the door. 12 pairs. 6 are empty. 2 belong to men who already left. Not discharged. Not transferred. Just gone. In the Legion, people vanish like breath in the desert. You run your hand over your name tag. The letters are faded. The stitching is rough. The name doesn't feel like yours anymore. And that's when you understand. The uniform doesn't make you a soldier. It doesn't make you proud. It doesn't make you stronger. It makes you disappear. You're not a person now. You're a shape in olive drab, a line in formation, a number with legs. You lie back, uniform folded, boots polished, soul cracked. Tomorrow it starts again, and the uniform will still be a lie. But it will be your lie, and that's the part that scares you the most. Morning. Not sunrise, not birds, just screaming. Boots on concrete, metal on metal. The distinct sound of 20 men trying to look alert while their souls quietly shut down. You're already standing when the door slams open. Because if you weren't, you wouldn't be standing at all. The corporal walks in with the kind of energy reserved for caffeine overdoses and executioners. He doesn't say good morning. He doesn't say anything. He just points outside. You go. Formation again. You line up, same as yesterday. Same dust, same boots, same heat, but different now. Because today is drill, not the marching you did in school, not the precision you saw in parades. This is different. This is a test of obedience, of pain, of screaming you can take before you snap. You don't get a rifle, not yet. That's earned. Right now, you just get shouted at until your spine learns French. Adroit. You step left. Wrong. Push-ups. Again. A gauche. You flinch. Too slow. Push-ups. Again. You start sweating before the sun fully rises. You stop blinking. You don't have time for blinking. They march you in circles, then squares, then lines that are almost straight. Almost isn't enough. Push-ups. Again. You start hating the ground. Not metaphorically. Literally. You hate its texture, its heat, its indifference. You hate the sound your chest makes when it hits gravel. And it's only been 20 minutes. The instructor barks in 3 languages at once. You understand none of it. But your body moves anyway. Forward, back, turn, stop, run. You're not learning drill. You're learning pain with a rhythm. A man in front of you stumbles, too slow. The whole formation stops. That's not allowed. You all drop. Push-ups. He apologizes. The instructor slaps him, then makes him march alone. Wrong steps, wrong direction. Everyone watches. No one helps. You march in place for 10 minutes straight. He doesn't say why, because he doesn't have to. That's the beauty of the Legion. No reason, no warning, no mercy. Your shirt sticks to your back. Your eyes sting. You feel salt on your lips, but you're not crying. Not yet. You trip on a rock the size of a thumb. Your ankle bends the wrong way. You limp. He notices. Tu es blessé. You nod. He nods back. Push-ups. Again. Someone says something under their breath. Wrong move. Now you're sprinting laps. Full gear. Midday sun. No shade, no brakes, no point. You run until you forget why you started. Your vision swims. Your boots dig into the sand like punishment. Your legs forget what straight is. You want to vomit. You don't. You swallow it. You fall out of step. You fall behind. He sees. Push-ups. Again. This time with your pack on. He doesn't say how many. He just waits. You push. Your arms shake. Your wrists go numb. You keep pushing. You want it to be over. But that's the trick. It's never over. There's always another drill, another round, another humiliation. Drill isn't about sharpness. It's not about unity. It's about pressure. How much can they apply before you crack? And when you do crack, and you will you stand back up? Because if you don't, they'll make sure you don't get back up. Not here, not ever. You get 5 minutes for water. If you ask for 6, push-ups. Again. You drink so fast you choke. Someone laughs. You don't see who. Back in formation, someone collapses. Heat stroke. Again. The instructor walks over, checks his pulse, nods once. Drill resumes. No one speaks. You march into the dirt until your legs feel like splinters. Your feet are soup. Your hands shake from dehydration. Your brain floats somewhere above your body, not in it. A fly lands on your cheek. You don't swat it. You don't even notice. You're not in pain anymore. You're past pain. You're just existing now. existing in sweat, in discipline, in the cold stare of a man who hasn't blinked since 0600. And then he gives the order. You stop, salute, still as statues. The instructor walks down the line. He stops in front of you. You don't breathe. You don't blink. He stares at your posture, your sweat, your face. You expect criticism. You expect another punishment. But all he says is, tomorrow we do it again. Better. Then he walks away. You don't move. Not because you're told, because you can't. Your muscles are concrete. Your shirt is glue. Your soul is dust. You stand there and realize something terrifying. This wasn't even the hard part. This was the practice for the hard part. This was drill. And drill isn't about precision. It's about endurance. It's about obeying before thinking. It's about breaking everything you thought made you strong and replacing it with silence, sweat, and someone else's orders. You don't remember walking back to the barracks. Your legs did it without permission. You sit on the cot, take off your boots, 2 toenails are gone. You don't care. You fold your uniform because you still have to. Because if you don't, push-ups, again. They don't call it training. They don't call it a hike. They don't even call it a march. They call it what it is. Marchez ou crève. March. Or die. You're lined up before sunrise, still chewing sleep. Boots on. Blisters raw. Backpack loaded with everything you might need to survive and several things you won't. The sergeant yells. You don't need a translation. It's the same every time. Keep up, or don't come back. You start walking. Not on roads, not on trails. Just dirt, rocks, angles designed by sadists. The pack digs into your spine like it's trying to break in and live there. Your rifle slaps your thigh with every step, leaving bruises in the shape of regret. The canteen clinks like a slow countdown. You don't ask where you're going, because asking questions means you still think you're a person. And people don't survive this. Legionnaires do. You march in silence. No songs, no jokes, no camaraderie. This isn't a movie. This is purgatory on foot. The first hour is tolerable. The second hurts. The third turns your legs into question marks. By hour 4, you're floating. Your body moves without consent. A ghost carrying gear through an oven made of sky. Someone stumbles behind you. Someone else is limping. You all hear it, but no one turns around. Because slowing down means punishment. Stopping means death. The sun climbs, the shadows disappear. The ground turns from hard to loose to cruel. Gravel, sand, stones that move when you step. It's not terrain, it's a trap. Your boots are soaked in sweat. Your socks shredded. Your toes feel like someone poured acid into your shoes. You want water. You get 10 seconds. Not a drop more. If you drink too fast, they slap the bottle out of your hand. Hydration is earned, not given. You think about lying, saying you're sick, saying you can't breathe. But you've seen what happens to liars. They don't leave footprints. The guy in front of you drops his pack. The corporal is on him in seconds, screaming, spitting, kicking dust in his face. You carry that or I carry you, and I will not carry you. The guy lifts it again. Barely. But he lifts it. You want to quit. You don't. You want to cry. You don't. You just keep walking. Because every voice in your head is screaming, don't be the weak link. Don't be the one who falls. Don't be the body they step over. The terrain changes again. Uphill now. The incline is shallow. But shallow means nothing when you've walked for 6 hours in 40-degree heat with 80 pounds strapped to your soul. Your breath turns to sandpaper. Your vision narrows. Your mind starts doing math. How much further? How much longer? How many steps before I collapse? Answer: one less than you thought. You reach a clearing. No shade. Just rocks and echoes. The sergeant blows a whistle. Rest. But don't sit. Sit, and your legs might not forgive you. Lie down and you might not get up. So you kneel. Half prayer, half defeat. You drink. A sip. 2. Then you stop. You have to. You're only halfway through. Someone pukes nearby. Someone else squats to pee, then nearly passes out. This is the part no one talks about. The unglamorous hell between glory and giving up. You eat something that might have been food once. A protein bar the colour of regret. You don't chew. You swallow. Back on your feet. No whistle this time. Just movement. Everyone knows. Breaks over. The second half of the march is worse. Not because it's harder, because it's longer. Time stops being measured in hours. It starts being measured in hallucinations. You see water where there's only dust. Trees that weren't there a minute ago. A road sign that says exit. It doesn't. You keep walking. The guy next to you mutters to himself, over and over. Something about a birthday, or maybe a woman. You don't ask, because if you talk you break the spell. And right now, the spell is the only thing keeping you moving. You trip, fall hard. Your pack crushes your spine into gravel. You can't breathe. You can't scream. You just lie there, face in the dust, waiting for the yelling. But no one yells. Because they're too far ahead, you force yourself up. Slow. Every muscle says no, but you don't listen. You limp forward. Join the back of the column. No one looks at you. No one asks if you're okay. Because if they did, they might realise they're not okay either. March or die. That's not a motto. That's a rule. You crest one last hill. The sun's behind you now. Not because the day is over. Because it's moved on. You're still stuck here. At the top of the hill camp. Or what passes for it. Tents. Dirt. A bucket of water. You drop your pack. It lands like a dead body. Maybe it is one. You don't care. You lie down in the dirt, not because you want to, because your legs stopped asking for permission. The sergeant walks past. He glances at you, nods once. You're not done, he says, and you believe him. Because tomorrow, you march again. You're thirsty. Not, I could use a drink, thirsty. Not, I forgot my water bottle. Thirsty. Thirsty like your body's forgotten how saliva works. Thirsty like your bones feel dry. Like even your thoughts are starting to crack. The canteen on your belt is full. You don't touch it. Because they told you when you can drink. And right now, you haven't earned it. You stand in the sun. Formation again. Back straight. Eyes forward. Sweat pouring down your spine in steady, traitorous rivers. The guy next to you blinks too much. That's heat exhaustion. You know it. He knows it. The sergeant definitely knows it. But no one says anything. Because water breaks aren't given. They're weaponized. One guy asked for water yesterday. Mid-drill, just asked. They didn't give it to him. They gave him burpees. Until he vomited bile onto the sand. Then they made him mop it up with his shirt. Today, nobody asks. You march again, no destination, just movement. Dust rises with every step. It clings to your lips, your teeth, your tongue. You chew it, like flavourless gum made of dirt and despair. The corporal shouts, "Rien à boire, continuez!" Nothing to drink, keep moving. You do. You pass a broken pipe leaking, tiny trickle of water winding through the dirt. You stare too long. The instructor notices. Push-ups. With your mouth so dry you can barely swallow your pride. You start fantasizing. Not about home, not about women. About fountains, sinks, showers. You would kill for a dripping faucet right now. You'd drink out of a dog bowl. You'd wring out your own shirt if you thought it'd give you more than 2 drops. The guy behind you mutters, "Rain would be a miracle." You nod. Then remember, miracles don't visit this place. You get to a checkpoint. There's water, metal jugs, condensation dripping down the sides like forbidden fruit. You form a line, slow, silent, desperate. The corporal watches you like a prison guard. You reach the front, tilt the canteen, cold metal, cool sound, 1 sip, that's it. Not a gulp, not a refill. 1 sip. You swallow so slowly it hurts. You feel it slide down your throat like Mercy wearing combat boots. Then you step aside, because if you linger, they'll remember your face, and they'll take your next sip away. You march again. The heat's worse now. No clouds, no wind. The desert just lies there smug and suffocating. Someone drops. Flat out. No sound. The medics are called. They don't rush. They've done this too many times. The man is still breathing. Barely. They lift him by the arms. Drag him to the shade. You all keep walking. Because water doesn't bring forgiveness. It brings punishment. If you drink too much, they'll run you until you lose it again. If you don't drink at all, they'll bury you under a nameless stone outside the gate. You reach the next station. No water this time. Just sandbags. More drills. You hold the sandbag above your head, arms trembling. Sun melting your vision into static. Sweat drips into your eyes. You don't blink. You don't dare. The instructor says something in Arabic. The only word you catch. Shamo. Camel. He's mocking you, saying even a camel would have quit by now. You agree with him. Silently. Someone starts crying. Real tears. Not from emotion, from dehydration. The body's last desperate attempt to cool itself. The instructor walks over, stares at the man, then pours water from his own bottle. Onto the ground. Slow. Deliberate. Just to prove a point. Then he walks away. That night, back in the barracks, someone smuggles a second canteen. Hidden in their pack. Warm. Probably dirty. No one asks where it came from. No one cares. You share it like it's gold. Each person gets a sip. No one takes more than that. Because in the Legion, greed gets punished. But restraint? That's survival. You lie on your cot, mouth still dry, lips cracked, dreaming of oceans you'll never swim in again. You remember showers, ice cubes, the feeling of cold water on bare skin. It feels like a dream now. Or a lie someone told you to make civilian life seem better. You wake up the next morning. The thirst is still there. Worse. You stand in formation, waiting for the command. Praying for clouds. There aren't any. The sergeant yells. You move. You know the drill now. Water breaks are myths. And thirst? That's just another part of the uniform. You used to have a name, a full name. First, last, maybe a middle one if your parents were feeling ambitious. You used to write it on forms, say it proudly, hear it called in classrooms over intercoms across dinner tables. Now, it's gone. Day 6 in the Legion and no one's used it once. Not even you. You stand in formation. Again. Sweat dripping, shoulders locked, eyes forward. Someone shouts your name behind you, or maybe something that sounds like it. You don't turn, because if you respond to the wrong thing here, you're a target. And if you don't respond to the right thing, you're also a target. So instead, you wait for the number. That's how they call you now. Quatre-vingt-seize. 96. That's you. Not Daniel, not Mendez, not Staff Sergeant or Private First Class, or even, "Hey, you!" Just a number, barked across dirt. Written in Sharpie on a laminated card you keep tucked into your breast pocket like it's sacred. It's not sacred. It's proof that you still exist. The name you came in with? They stripped it at registration. You wrote it down once, signed a few papers, then watched as they filed it into a drawer and forgot it existed. Now, when you speak, you don't introduce yourself. You don't say, "Hi, I'm anything." You just nod, grunt, or say the number, sometimes in French, sometimes in broken English, sometimes not at all. Because the Legion isn't a place for names, it's a place for function. The guy next to you, he might have been a banker, or a criminal, or a dad. Now he's 112. And 112 snores like a dying chainsaw and has a knife taped to his sock. You want to ask his real name, but that's dangerous. Because if you know someone's name, you might start caring. And if you care, you're not going to last. In the Legion, names are a liability. A soft spot. A piece of the past you were supposed to kill before you got here. One guy tried to hold on to his name, spoke it loudly, even tried to etch it into the back of his helmet. They made him scrub latrines for a week with a toothbrush, not because of the graffiti, but because he forgot the rule. In here, you don't matter, only your number does. You do roll call 3 times a day, not to make sure you're alive, just to make sure your number's accounted for. The sergeant doesn't look at your face. He looks at the tag. If it's missing, you get punished. If it's dirty, you get punished. If you forget to respond when it's shouted, oh, you really get punished. You tried to keep track of people at first, by nickname, by accent, by the sound of their boots. But the numbers keep shifting. One day someone's here. Next day, gone. Where? You don't ask. You learn fast. Curiosity gets you noticed. And being noticed, that's not what you want. So you speak less, listen more, answer only when called by the number. A Polish guy once said to you, "Names are for before, now we're just ghosts in green." You nodded, because he was right, and because he was 137. And 137 never missed formation, even after he broke 2 ribs in a night march. You try to remember your own last name one night, lying on the cot, facing the pillow, thinking real hard. It doesn't come. Just a letter. Maybe a syllable. Then it's gone again. The next morning you're called. Quatre-vingt-seize. You snap to attention. Present. It's automatic now. Reflex, like breathing. Only breathing hurts less. You notice the instructors never use names either, even with each other. They bark, they glare, they point, but they don't name. It's not about respect. It's about control. Names are for humans. You? You're not human here. You're a tool, and tools get numbered. You see a guy snap once, gets called by the wrong number, tries to correct it. Big mistake. They beat the correction out of him with silence and drills. 4 hours of non-stop punishment until even he started responding to the wrong number. Now he's 159. Even though his card says 148. Doesn't matter. He answers. He moves. He exists. That's all the Legion wants. Eventually, even your thoughts stop using your name. You dream in numbers. You hear 96 and your heart skips. You hear your birth name and it sounds foreign, like it belongs to someone else. Like a face you used to know but forgot how to draw. One night, Harris, 117, leans over in the dark and whispers, "What's your real name?" You don't answer. Not because you don't trust him, but because you're not sure anymore. You roll over. "Forget it," he says. "You already have." There's a myth they tell you when you join. The Legion breaks you down to build you back up. Sounds noble, structured, almost therapeutic. But no one ever tells you this. They might forget the second part. Because breaking, that's easy, that's fast, that's fun for them. Building, that takes time, and effort, and mercy. 3 things the Legion doesn't believe in. You wake up to the same scream, same boots, same slap of fists against metal lockers. It doesn't matter what time it is. Time stopped meaning anything 3 weeks ago. Your shirt sticks to your chest. Your back aches from the cot, from the sand, from everything. Outside, the corporal's already yelling. Drills, again, always again. You file out with the others, uniforms creased wrong, boots still wet, soles half fried. The sergeant looks you over. Today's goal? Humiliation. He points to one guy, too slow. Push-ups. Another. Uniform too wrinkled. Push-ups. Then to you. Just for existing. Push-ups. Again. You drop. Fists in dirt. Sweat dripping from your nose like a leaky pipe. They don't care how strong you were before. They don't care what medals you wore, what gyms you lifted in, what wars you think you understand. Everyone here starts at 0, and 0 hurts. One recruit tries to argue, says he was promised something. Respect, rank, something. The instructors laugh. Not loud, just enough to sting. Then they make him dig a hole, 2 meters deep, not for punishment, for the lesson. When he's done, they make him fill it in again. "Now you understand," the sergeant says, then walks away. That's what breaking looks like. It's not yelling. It's erosion. They shave you down, layer by layer, until there's nothing left but raw compliance. You start to feel it in little ways. You forget how to walk without counting your steps. You stop blinking during inspections. You flinch every time someone says your number, even casually. Harris cracks first. One night he just starts laughing. Nothing funny. Just tired. He laughs until he coughs. Coughs until he vomits. Then curls up on the floor like a child. No one helps him. Not because we don't care, because we can't. Empathy gets noticed. And being noticed means pain. Another guy snaps during weapons training. They ask him to disassemble his rifle. He just stares at it, like it betrayed him, like he forgot what it is. They drag him out. We don't see him again. Some say he got reassigned. Others say he tried to run. No one knows. No one asks. You stand there the next morning, still sweaty from the night before, still tired, still shaking from hunger and rage and the quiet scream behind your teeth. The instructor walks by, stops in front of you, says, "You think you're ready?" You nod. He laughs, then says, "Good, then you're ready to fail." He orders the unit into push-ups. No reason, just because he can. Someone hesitates. The whole squad pays. Push-ups, burpees, sprints, sit-ups, crawl through mud, crawl through sand, crawl through each other. He keeps shouting, faster, louder, better. But nothing is ever enough, because that's the secret. They don't want you to succeed. They want you to obey. Success here isn't measured in victories. It's measured in surrender, of ego, of pride, of self. You start to accept it. You forget your old gym routines, your hobbies, your playlists, the sound of your own laughter. You forget who you were before. Because who you were doesn't matter now, not to them, not to you. Get used to the ache in your joints, the chafing in your boots, the metallic taste of recycled water and cheap ration bars. You get used to sleeping half sitting because lying down feels like luxury. You get used to the bruises, not from fights from falling, from training, from not training fast enough. And eventually the mirror stops surprising you. The sunken eyes, the cracked lips, the new scars. You look like a different person, and that's the point. Because the Legion doesn't want the person you were. They want something else, something brutal, something obedient, something useful. You whisper to yourself before lights out, they break you before they build you. But every day you wonder, what if they forget to build? You don't know the man sleeping next to you. Not really. You know his number. You know his boots are too small. You know he snores like a broken engine. But you don't know him. No one talks about the past in the Legion. Because no one's proud of it. You ask too many questions. People stop trusting you. And in the Legion, trust is rarer than clean socks. You lie there some nights, eyes open, heart beating like it's still in a sprint, and wonder, who are these men? That guy with the 1,000-yard stare and the prison tattoos, was he a killer? Or did he get those marks to make people think he was? The quiet one from Belarus who never eats meat? Religious? Or hiding something? Harris, who says he's from nowhere in particular, flinches every time a chopper flies overhead. You don't ask why. He doesn't ask you either. And that's the rule. You don't ask. You don't explain. You survive. Everyone has a secret. It's not spoken, but you can feel it in the way men flinch during night patrols, in how they react to loud bangs, in the way no one ever says when I get out of here. Because they might not. Or they don't want to. There's a guy in your unit, number 213. Never smiles. Sleeps with his boots on. Wears a knife on his belt that isn't regulation. No one says anything. Because he sharpens it every night like it's the only thing keeping him grounded. One day, a new recruit touches his pack. Not stealing. Just moved it by accident. 213 breaks his nose, fast. Precise. No yelling. No warning. Just blood and a clean right hook. No one reports it. The instructors saw. They didn't stop it. They didn't care. Because out here, the rules aren't rules. They're suggestions with consequences. You hear stories. Whispers. One guy was a war criminal. Another ran from the mob. Someone else used to be police before he wasn't. You never know what's true. Because in the Legion, truth is camouflage. You wear it when it helps. You ditch it when it doesn't. Your truth doesn't matter. No one wants to hear about your degree, your ex-girlfriend, your busted dreams. That's why you're here in the first place, because you ran out of people willing to listen. So, instead you learn to read people in other ways. How fast they eat, how they tie their boots, where they keep their blade. Because everyone here has a blade, even if it's not issued, even if it's not visible. There's a ritual on the third week of training. No announcement, no explanation. You're woken up at 2 a.m, marched into the woods and told to build a shelter with your squad. Then left alone. For 48 hours. No food. Barely any water. No supervision. It's not about survival. It's about observation. Because when the instructors come back, they're not checking your shelter. They're checking who's bleeding, who's missing, who's suddenly medically discharged. You remember that night clearly. A fight broke out around hour 16. Someone accused someone else of stealing water. Words turned into fists, fists turned into steel. By the time it ended, 2 men were gone. One walked back to camp on his own. The other got carried. No one got punished. Because out here, that was the lesson. Back at base, you stare at your fellow legionnaires in silence. One of them killed a man last night. One of them almost did. You're not sure who. You're not sure it matters. You sharpen your own knife after dinner, just like everyone else. You don't plan to use it, but you plan to have it. That's enough. Because the longer you're here, the more you realise this isn't a unit. It's a collection of ghosts. Shadows in boots. People who don't want to be known. They learn your weaknesses. Not to protect you, to avoid catching them. No one shares. No one opens up. No one tells the truth. Except once. In the middle of a march, 117 turns to you and says, "I killed a man once, for money, didn't even think twice." You stare. He smiles. "I'm not sorry, but sometimes I wish I'd done it slower." Then he turns away. That's it. No follow-up. No question. You walk in silence. That's how the Legion works. Secrets in the open, like knives on the table. Everyone has one. Everyone knows it. No one speaks until they do. Then, someone bleeds. You used to think you were tired. Work tired, school tired. Late night, early meeting, bad coffee kind of tired. That wasn't tired. That was inconvenient. This is exhaustion so deep it lives in your bones. It's not the kind of tired you sleep off. It's the kind that becomes part of who you are. You're standing at attention, eyes open, back straight, head foggy. You've been awake for you don't know how long. 40 hours? 50? Time doesn't track right anymore. Your body keeps moving. But your brain checked out sometime yesterday. You blink. Once. Twice. Too slow. The instructor sees. He doesn't say anything. Just walks past with a look that says, "Do that again, and I'll make you regret having eyelids." You stare forward. Nothing in focus. Everything feels like it's happening behind a sheet of glass. That's the Legion's secret weapon. Not weapons. Not drills. Not beatings. It's sleep deprivation. They don't need to scream at you anymore. They just wait. Wait for the moment your body betrays you. You run on fumes, then on adrenaline, then on fear, then on nothing. Eventually, you start to dream while you're still awake. Marching through the forest, someone next to you stumbles. He says he saw his mother. She was standing in the trees. He starts crying. The sergeant doesn't stop the march, doesn't even slow down. You step over him when he falls, not because you're cruel, because you have to. You're tired too, and in the Legion the weak get punished. But the slow, the slow disappear. You get 15 minutes of sleep, maybe, lying on rocks. Your pack as a pillow, a rifle pressed against your chest like a teddy bear that bites. You don't dream. You don't even blink. You just black out. Then the whistle. Always the whistle. You're on your feet before you're awake, running before you remember how legs work. Someone throws up mid-sprint. Someone else face plants into gravel. The rest of you keep going, because here sleep is weakness, and weakness is a target. The instructors are machines. They don't sleep, or maybe they do standing up. Eyes open. You never see them rest, only observe, and wait for you to collapse. And when you do, they smile. You sit at breakfast once, chewing rice with a fork that tastes like rust, and realise you don't remember how you got there. Someone says something to you. You nod. You don't know what they said. You don't care. You're just trying to stay upright long enough to not draw attention. Later that day, during weapons maintenance, your hand slips. The bolt slams into your thumb. You don't even feel it. Just stare at the blood. Watch it drip onto the table. Someone says, "You okay?" You nod again, because everything else hurts more. You clean the blood. Keep moving. The guy across from you is falling asleep mid-reassembly, head bobbing like a broken antenna. The corporal walks over, doesn't yell, doesn't scold. He just takes the rifle, holds it in both hands, then smashes it across the table. Wood splinters, steel bends, noise explodes in your skull. Everyone jolts, except the guy who was sleeping. He's wide awake now. The corporal leans in, says, "If you can't stay awake, you can't stay alive," then walks away. You sleep standing up that night, leaning against a wall, helmet on, boots laced, eyes open. Because beds are for civilians. Here, you take what you can get. 10 minutes during transport, 2 minutes during inspection. A blink you try to stretch into a nap. Sometimes you dream with your eyes open. See your childhood bedroom, your old dog, your mum's voice saying something soft, then the whistle, and the dream dies. One morning, Harris leans over during roll call and whispers, "Hey, if I ever start talking to someone who isn't there, don't stop me. Let me enjoy it." You nod, because you get it. You do the same. A week later you do. You find yourself talking to a shadow on the wall, telling it about your favourite song, a memory of pancakes, something stupid, something human. Then you realise it's not a shadow. It's your own reflection. You don't tell anyone. They just give you another patrol. One guy tried to fake passing out once, dropped to the ground during inspection, didn't move. They checked his pulse, then made him run laps. While unconscious, they ran him until he stopped faking or stopped breathing. Not sure which. You don't try that. You just keep walking, keep blinking, keep pretending you're awake, until one day you forget how tired you are. Not because it went away, because it became you. And in the Legion, that's the final stage. You're not tired. You're Legionnaire tired, which means you'll sleep when you're dead. Maybe. Doesn't matter how fast you move, how quick you stand up, how early you wake. In the Legion, you're always too slow. Always. You button your shirt fast? Too slow. You shave before dawn? Still too slow. You finish your meal in 30 seconds and sprint outside? They were already watching, and they decided too slow. That's the point. Because here, there's no such thing as fast enough. Only less disappointing than yesterday. You wake up before the whistle, 5 a.m, too late. They're already banging lockers. You scramble out of bed, heart pounding, boots half-laced, shirt backwards. Doesn't matter. Still too slow. They make you sprint laps while the sun's still rising. You pass 3 guys, trip over the 4th and fall face first into gravel. They don't help you up, because you're not a recruit anymore. You're a liability, and you are too slow to recover. Back at formation, you arrive a full 10 seconds ahead of roll call, which, in Legion math, is 30 seconds too late. The corporal screams in your face. In French, English, German, doesn't matter. The words aren't meant to teach. They're meant to scar. Push-ups. Again. A guy next to you asks what time it is. You say 0615. He frowns. I thought it was 0620. You both get punished. Because if you don't agree, you're not synchronized. And if you're not synchronized, you're too slow. The instructors have clocks in their heads. Atomic precision warped by malice. They know when you flinch, when you blink, and when you do either a fraction too late. You're on the ground, arms shaking, lungs gasping. You begin to anticipate pain before it arrives, a kind of sixth sense. You start running before they say go, standing before they say attention, saluting before they even look at you. Still not fast enough, because once you get faster they get meaner. Once you learn the system they change it. One morning you line up in record time. Perfect rows, boots aligned, helmets gleaming. They don't smile. They just make you run up the hill and back, because fast is lazy. Too fast now, still wrong, still slow, just in a different way. Someone new arrives that week, bright-eyed, strong, confident. You can smell the civilian on him. He sprints to formation, snaps into position, shouts, present, like it means something. He's proud of himself. You watch it happen. The smile, the false sense of competence. And then the instructor steps in, 2 inches from his face, breathing anger. Whispers just loud enough for all of you to hear. If you think you're fast, then you're not paying attention. Then he makes the recruit do push-ups until his wrists stop functioning. Later you help him off the floor. He doesn't thank you. He just mutters, "I was early." You nod. You don't correct him. Because he was early in civilian time. In Legion time? He might as well have been a week late. Even in drills, speed kills. You move too fast, you make mistakes. You fire before they say so. You just shot your teammate. Now you're doing laps. Wearing a gas mask. In 38-degree heat. Your legs give out. Too slow to stand. Too slow to breathe. That's on you. You're too slow in your sleep too. One night you don't hear the whistle. Doesn't matter that you were dreaming about your mother. Doesn't matter that it was the first dream in days that didn't involve blood. You're the last to wake. By 4 seconds. They remember that. Next day they call your number out of order. You miss it. Push-ups. Again. You realise something terrifying. It's not just your body they're training. It's your reflexes. Your instincts, your sense of time itself. They want you living second by second, heartbeat by heartbeat. Not to make you better, to make you faster than pain. But pain always wins. Harris tells you a story one night. Back when he was in his 3rd month. He got up late. 15 seconds. They made the entire squad run drills barefoot on broken terrain. People bled. People screamed. He never forgave himself. No one else did either. That's when it clicks. In the Legion, speed isn't about time. It's about fear, fear of being the last, fear of standing out, fear of failing when someone else is worse and they still punish you. You start timing everything. Shaving, blinking, drinking water. You become a stopwatch with skin. You still fail, because you're not a machine. You're flesh. And flesh is always slower than fear. Eventually you forget what fast enough even feels like. You just move, and pray no one's watching. But they always are. And to them, you're always too slow. Chapter 11. Blisters, blood, and broken feet. You used to think pain started in the muscles, in the arms, the chest, the legs, where the strain lives. But real pain, it starts at your feet. Day 1, your boots are too stiff. Day 2, they're too soft. By day 3, they're part of you. Not in the poetic, these boots define me kind of way. No, they're literally fused to your skin through sweat, friction and punishment. You've never been this aware of your toes. Every step is a reminder that you're still alive and regretting it. Blisters bloom like little bombs under your heels. You feel the squish of fluid when you shift your weight. Every step, a negotiation. Every march, a massacre. You try padding them, wadding up toilet paper, tying socks a little tighter. Doesn't matter. The boots win. They always win. The instructors say nothing. No sympathy, no acknowledgement. You could be missing a toe, and they'd just tell you to tighten your laces. Day after day you march. Through hills. Through brush. Through mud that sucks your boots off like it's trying to save you from yourself. By week 2, everyone walks funny. Not from pride, from damage. You start seeing it in the barracks. At night, everyone's peeling off socks like crime scene tape. Blisters so big they have names. Someone shows you his. It looks like a balloon of blood clinging to the side of his heel. He laughs, then cries. Harris wraps his foot in duct tape. Says it's cheaper than medical supplies and more effective than hope. One guy tries to drain his blister with a needle. He screams. The room doesn't even turn to look. Pain is private here. And feet, they're a battleground. You see toenails blackened like rot. Some fall off. Some hang on just to spite you. One morning a guy steps out of bed and his ankle just gives up. No warning, no drama. Just collapse. We hear the thud. See the leg bent in the wrong direction. The instructor walks over, stares, then says, "March it off." He's not joking. You do 12k that day, in silence, because complaining gets you 2 things. 1, push-ups. 2, more distance. Your blisters pop mid-march. You feel it. A warm, sickening splash inside your sock. You don't stop. You don't limp. You just clench your jaw and keep moving. Because if you draw attention, they'll punish you harder. And if you fall behind, you're out. Not discharged. Not released. Just erased. Back at base, you take off your sock. It sticks. Like peeling paint. The smell hits you first, a mix of sweat, blood, and dying tissue. You're afraid to look, but you do. The skin's gone. Just red. Wet. Ruined. You stare for a minute. Then tape it up. Because the alternative, you don't want to know. You dream about your feet now. About cold tile floors. About showers. About walking barefoot across soft carpet like a king. But you wake up to your boots. Always your boots. You put them on like shackles. Tight. Precise. Lace them up until you can't feel your toes. Because pain you can't feel. That's as close to rest as you'll get. You meet a guy from Morocco, number 181. He walks with a limp. You ask if he broke something. He lifts his boot, shows you the sole. No tread left. Just a hole. Says he walked 30 kilometres in those uphill, downhill in silence. You ask how. He shrugs. When you don't care if you bleed, you don't notice the cuts. That sticks with you. One night you see someone trying to steal a second pair of socks. He gets caught. The punishment? He has to share them. One sock split given to two men like a cruel joke. Next morning one of them marches barefoot. Blisters the size of silver dollars bloom across his feet like warning signs. He doesn't stop. No one does. Because blisters don't disqualify you. Blood doesn't earn pity. And broken bones? They just make the drills louder. You walk on cracked skin, split toes, infected cuts. You start to love the pain, because it means you haven't gone numb. Not yet. You clean your feet like they're sacred, not out of pride, out of fear. Because if you can't stand, you can't march. And if you can't march, you're done. That's the real Legion motto. If your feet go, you go. So you march. Through rain. Through heat. Through wounds. Because no matter how fast you are, how strong, how smart, if your feet give out, you're not a legionnaire. You're just a body waiting to be carried. It gets into everything. The sand. You knew deserts had sand. That's obvious. No one tells you how it follows you, how it clings to you, how it becomes part of who you are. You're standing at parade rest, boots buried ankle deep in grit, wind pushing dust into your eyes. You don't blink anymore. What's the point? There's sand in your hair even though you shaved it 3 weeks ago. There's sand in your socks, no matter how tight you tie them. You bite into your ration bar and the crunch isn't oats, it's dirt. You swallow anyway. Because out here, sand is seasoning. It's in your gear, in your bedroll, between your teeth. It scrapes your gums raw until the bleeding just becomes normal. And at some point you stop cleaning it out. Because the second you do, it's back. There's a myth among the Legionnaires. You can leave the desert, but the desert never leaves you. You didn't believe it at first. You thought they were being poetic. Now, you know they were being literal. You lie in your cot at night and feel the crunch in your sheets. You turn over and hear the whisper of grains against canvas. You wake up coughing not from illness, but because you inhaled half a dune while dreaming. You wipe your eyes in the morning and the crust isn't sleep. It's sand. You sweat and it turns the dust into paste. Sticks to your skin like regret. You scratch your leg and realise your fingers are raw not from the itching but from the grit embedded under your nails. One recruit tried washing himself every chance he got. Used his entire water ration on staying clean. He lasted 4 days. Because water is survival. Cleanliness is vanity. Out here, you choose. You choose to carry the sand. On your clothes. In your lungs. Inside your boots, where it grinds your blisters into infection. You march across dunes for hours, days. The horizon never changes. The sun never moves. Only the sand moves. And even then, it moves with you. Your footprints disappear behind you almost instantly. Like you were never there. That's the Legion too. You exist just long enough to be forgotten. Sometimes you dig a fighting position. 2 meters deep. The sergeant times you. You think, finally solid ground, you hit rock. You think it's relief. But then the rock crumbles, turns to more sand. Everything here becomes sand. You watch a man cry during a sandstorm, not from fear, from futility. He wore his goggles, his scarf, his gloves, all regulation. Still, the wind ripped open his face with microscopic razors. Sand doesn't just get on you. It gets in you. You feel it in your joints. You cough and it comes up black. You spit and see grains glinting in the sun. Your lips split, bleed. You taste iron and dust. The medics stop treating it. They just say hydrate, as if water can rinse the desert out of your bones. One night, Harris says, "When I die, don't bury me." You ask why. He shrugs. Sick of sand. You laugh, but you get it. There's a point when you stop missing home, because home doesn't make sense anymore. Your world is sand. Your thoughts are sand. Your soul is sand. You get 5 minutes of rest under a camo net. Shade, barely. You sit. Sand sticks to your sweat. You shift. Sand moves with you. It doesn't leave. You wash your hands before dinner, a rare luxury. The water turns brown. You scrub again, still brown. You eat anyway. That's the new normal. You tell yourself it'll end. That someday you'll be somewhere clean. Somewhere paved. Somewhere where you don't have to shake out your socks before bed like you're unpacking a miniature beach. But even then, you know it's a lie. Because long after the boots are gone, long after the uniform's burned, long after the Legion is just a memory with calloused edges, you'll still find sand in your shoes, in your pockets, in the crease behind your ear when you least expect it. And every time, you'll remember this place, this moment, this version of yourself, the one who bled grit, breathed dust, and carried a desert inside him. Forever. You expect yelling. You think the Legion is about fury, screaming instructors, red faces, drill sergeants throwing chairs and thunder at you every time you breathe wrong. You were wrong. Yelling happens, sure. But it's not the worst part. Not even close. The worst part is when they say nothing, but when they just watch. You're in formation. Again. Midday sun boiling your scalp through your helmet. Sweat dripping down your spine, soaking into your waistband like shame. And the sergeant's just there. Arms behind his back. Walking the line. Silent. He's not shouting. Not correcting. Not pointing. He's staring. Eyes like razors. Face blank. Scanning every uniform, every bootlace. Every bead of sweat that dares to fall too early. You feel your heart trying to run. You try to breathe without moving. You try to look neutral, invisible, compliant. Because if he stops, you're done. You see it happen. He halts in front of 134. Doesn't say a word. Just looks down. Boot untied, one loop dangling. The sergeant blinks. Still silent. Then, he steps aside. Points to the ground. Push-ups. Until 134 breaks. Then he turns to you and keeps walking. That's how the Legion punishes. With eyes, you start to fear silence more than sound. Because when they're yelling, you know what they want. When they're quiet, they're thinking, calculating, waiting. The Legion is full of watchers, instructors, seniors, the guys who've been here longer than you and know just how long it takes to destroy a man with a look. You're peeling potatoes once. Simple task. Peeler in hand. Metal bucket. Focus sharp. Too sharp. You start going fast. Clean peels. No waste. You think you're doing well. Then the corporal walks by. Stops. Looks into your bucket. Says nothing. Just nods. Walks away. You relax. Too soon. Next day, you're assigned the latrine pit. Why? Because you went too fast. Because you made it look easy. Because you weren't supposed to be good at it. The Legion doesn't reward initiative. It watches it. Then punishes it if you step out of line. You're scrubbing your rifle after a march. Hands raw. Barrel clean. The captain walks in. Silent. He circles the room. Everyone straightens. He says nothing. Then stops behind someone. You don't see who. Silence. Then he leaves. That night the guy is gone. No goodbyes. No explanation. His bunk empty. Just a boot print left behind in the dust under his mattress. And you learn something right then. The Legion doesn't need to yell. Because fear doesn't come from noise. It comes from attention. Too little and you're forgotten. Too much and you're destroyed. There's a perfect middle. A zone where you're invisible just enough. And staying there, that's survival. One day, Harris pulls you aside. Tells you they're always watching. You nod. Think he's being dramatic. Then you find the cameras, tucked in corners, disguised as vents. Small, hidden, always on. They watch how you walk, how you eat, how you think. They monitor your pace, your volume, your silence. Every reaction is a data point. There's no privacy in the Legion, only performance. You're never off stage. Even asleep, you're being evaluated. You roll too much, snore too loud, jerk awake during a nightmare. Someone's watching, taking notes. You get pulled out of bed one night, no reason given. Dragged outside, made to dig a hole, deep, pointless. When you finish, the instructor nods, says, "We were curious if you'd quit." You didn't, but you wanted to. He smiles, walks away, leaves you standing there with blistered hands and a lesson. They're always testing you, not to improve you, to categorize you. Not yelling, not shoving, not barking orders, just watching. The quiet ones scare you the most. The instructors who never raise their voices, never run. They just walk through chaos like it's routine. Because it is. They've seen more fear than you felt. And now they know how to measure it just by looking. You see it in their eyes. They know who's going to break. They already know. They're just waiting for it to happen. And when it does, they won't scream. They'll just nod and move on like they've seen it all before, because they have. You've been training for weeks. Blisters turn to calluses. Sleep is a myth. Pain is background noise. You think maybe you're ready. Then comes the test. They don't call it a test. They don't give it a name. But you know it when it arrives. Because everything changes. The tone. The faces. The silence that fills the gaps where orders used to be barked. They assemble you before dawn. Standard procedure. But this time there's no briefing. No explanation. Just a loaded pack and a fixed stare from the sergeant. He points. March. You move. Long march. Weighted march. Into nowhere. Hours pass. No markers. No checkpoints. No water for the first 3. Your legs burn. Back screams. You feel that familiar fire in your souls, the one that means your feet are starting to split. But this is the test, right? This is where you prove yourself. So you push. Harder than ever. You reach the range. Weapons out. Suddenly you're crawling under barbed wire with live rounds snapping above your head like the sky is chewing nails. Then sprinting. Then climbing. Then shooting. Targets pop out of the ground without warning. Miss one, they scream. Hit one. Because doing your job correctly is not praiseworthy here. It's expected. You climb a rope with bleeding palms. You rappel with burned fingers. You fall once. Only once. But it's enough. They see it. And you remember. Later you run navigation drills. Map, compass, nothing else. You pick your bearing. Set your pace. Trust the math. But they've tampered with the coordinates. Slightly. Just enough to make you think you messed up. You feel your confidence unravel thread by thread. Then an ambush. Blank rounds, flashbangs, screaming in French and Arabic. You hit the dirt. Instinct takes over. You move. You breathe. You survive. Barely. Back to camp at dusk. Covered in sweat, grime, and disappointment. You line up. Exhausted. Thinking maybe you made it. Maybe you passed. But the sergeant walks the line, quiet. Expression blank. He stops at you. Says one word. Échec. Failure. You blink. You want to argue. You need to argue. But you don't. Because the look on his face isn't anger. It's boredom. You weren't even interesting enough in your failure to provoke emotion. You look around. Everyone failed. Every single one, some mutter. One guy cracks, throws down his rifle, curses in German. He's gone before morning. No ceremony, no paperwork, just gone. You think about him later while you're scrubbing a latrine with a toothbrush. The sergeant steps in. You know why you failed? You shake your head. He says, because everyone does, the first time, then leaves. And that's the truth. No one passes the first time. The test isn't about skill. It's not about strength. It's about control. They want to see who breaks, who begs, who quits. The test is just bait. The real exam is after, in the waiting, in the watching, in what you do when you know you've been set up to fail. Some guys lose their minds. They stop talking. They start pacing like animals in cages. Others laugh like it's a joke, a hazing ritual. But you feel nothing. Just the hum of fatigue and something colder, something harder. Not defeat, acceptance. You realise now the Legion isn't testing your skills. It's testing your tolerance for futility. Because if you can keep moving after failure, real failure, soul-level failure, then maybe you'll earn a second chance. So you keep your head down. You keep working. You keep bleeding. And when the second test comes, you'll fail again. But this time, they'll nod. Because failure isn't the end here. It's the first step in a long, ugly, painful kind of loyalty. One that's earned through sweat, blood, dirt. And 1,000 quiet failures no one will ever remember but you. Food isn't food anymore. It's not joy. It's not culture. It's not comfort. It's math. Calories in, energy out. Nothing else matters. When you first arrive at the Legion, you think chow time might be the one. Break, you get a few minutes to breathe, maybe relax. You think, surely they let us sit down. Surely they let us enjoy one thing. That illusion dies fast. The first meal sets the tone. You're herded into a mess hall that smells like sweat, disinfectant, and boiled cabbage. No conversation. Just metal trays and rubber soles squeaking on the concrete floor. You hold out your tray like a prisoner. One scoop of rice. Some kind of brown stew that's 70% oil and 30% mystery. A single piece of bread that might have once been soft in another lifetime. No menu, no options, no substitutions. Take it or starve. You shuffle to a bench. No backrest. No cushioning. Just cold steel and noise. The room buzzes with low chewing, clanking utensils, and the distant shout of an instructor yelling at someone in the kitchen. You sit, and then you eat, not like a human, not like someone enjoying a meal, like a machine, because you've got 5 minutes, sometimes 6 if the corporal is distracted. You learn to prioritise. Protein first, then carbs. If you get to the bread, it's a luxury. You don't talk. Talking gets you punished, or worse, talking gets your food stolen while you blink. No one steals in the Legion? Wrong. They don't call it stealing. They call it requisitioning. You look away from your tray for 1 second, and a hard-boiled egg disappears. Gone, like it never existed. You don't call anyone out, because if you do, you'll be the one cleaning the latrines at 3 a.m, so you eat. Head down, arms tight, one elbow on the tray to block interference. One hand shoveling food with mechanical precision. You finish in 4 minutes. Because on day 2 you learned the hard way, if you're still eating when the whistle blows, they'll take your tray mid-bite. And if you ask for more, they laugh. Refill, only if you've bled today, which is most days. But that doesn't mean they give you more. It just means you can beg with a straight back. You try to savour a meal once, just once. Big mistake. You chew slowly, trying to remind yourself of flavour, of life outside this place. Beef. You think it's beef. Maybe, maybe not. Then the whistle sounds, and you're halfway through. Your tray's gone before you can argue. A hand yanks it off the table. You don't even see who. Your stomach growls through the next drill like an angry dog chained to your ribs. That's when you learn. This isn't eating. This is refueling. You begin to treat it like a science. You memorize the fastest path from the line to your seat. You figure out which utensil works best for which texture. Fork for rice, spoon for stew, fingers for bread. You count seconds like they're gold. By week 3, you've got it down to a rhythm. Sit, eat, choke, swallow. Wipe your mouth with your sleeve. Stand, leave. You start carrying food in your pockets, dry biscuits, old sugar cubes, hard candies from care packages no one admits they got. You eat them at night, hidden under blankets. Harris once got caught chewing gum in his bunk. They made him do jumping jacks until he threw up mint. Now he swallows gum whole. No chewing, just energy. You ration everything. An apple from the officer's leftover tray is like a trophy. You don't eat it right away. You stare at it. Admire it. Then bite into it like it's the last piece of earth that tastes real. Sometimes you don't even chew all the way. You just want something in your mouth. Because hunger becomes constant. Not sharp. Not painful. Just ever present. A low hum under your thoughts. A dull ache that follows you from drill to drill like a shadow that never stops licking your insides. You start dreaming about food, but not steak, not ice cream, not gourmet dishes. You dream about buttered toast, a glass of cold milk, cereal, a meal that's hot and doesn't taste like aluminum. You wake up, not from nightmares, but from cravings. You remember your mother's cooking, the sound of a microwave beeping, there's of soda in a glass. All foreign now, all ridiculous. One day someone gets a box from home. Cookies. Real cookies. He shares one, just one, with a few guys. You get a bite. It tastes like heaven, like betrayal. because it reminds you there's a world outside this hell, and the next meal, the stew tastes worse, because now you remember, but it's too late. You're in too deep. You eat faster than ever now, with more urgency, because you're not fueling a body. You're fueling a machine made of hurt and discipline and orders shouted in languages you barely understand. And the machine doesn't run on pleasure or comfort. It runs on protein, carbs, fat and shame. You grow leaner, meaner. Your metabolism spikes from constant movement. But you never feel full. Even after double rations on long marches, you go to bed hollow. You start licking the plate when no one's looking, sucking the salt off your fingers like a starving animal. You stop judging others for doing the same. You choose slower in private, a quiet rebellion against the clock. But it's never enough. Because you don't eat. You refuel, like a tank, and even tanks run empty. Eventually. You speak your own language in the Legion. Not English, not French, not Arabic or Polish or the half-mumbled slang passed between recruits who don't even know each other's real names. The true language of the Legion. Punishment. You learn it fast. Faster than your number. Faster than the ranks. Faster than you learn to lace your boots in the dark or field, strip a rifle with one hand. It's not taught. It's absorbed. A boot to the ribs is a full sentence. A slap across the back of the head is punctuation. A forced march with a full pack for someone else's mistake? That's a poem. You arrive thinking punishment is reserved for errors, mistakes, infractions. But here, punishment is the baseline. It's the weather. It's the gravity. You don't get punished when you fail. You get punished because you're here. Because that's how they train you. The first time it happens, it's small. You forget to tuck in your shirt properly. The sergeant doesn't yell. Doesn't even raise his voice. He just says, 10 laps in full kit. You run. Sweat pours down your back like regret. You collapse afterward, lungs burning, vision blurred. You think it's over. Then the sergeant says, wrong attitude, do it again. Punishment isn't corrective here. It's ritual. You get punished for being late. You get punished for being early. You get punished for talking. Then punished again for not talking when spoken to. You learn quickly. It's not about what you did. It's about when they decide you've had it too easy. A quiet morning? Too quiet. They find a reason. You didn't polish your belt buckle. You blinked during formation. You looked away when I was yelling at someone else. And the punishment? Sometimes it's physical. Push-ups until your arms vibrate. Crawling through gravel on your elbows until the skin peels off like wet wallpaper. Carrying sandbags up a hill over and over until your back spasms. Sometimes it's psychological. Isolation. Silent treatment. Extra duties when everyone else is asleep. Cleaning the latrines with a toothbrush. Alone. In silence. While your squad sleeps a whole 2 hours. You start to see it for what it really is. Punishment isn't a response. It's communication. It's how they shape you. They want obedience? Push-ups. They want humility? Latrine duty. They want to see if you'll snitch. Make the whole unit suffer. Peer pressure does the rest. One recruit sneaks extra rations. They find the wrapper in the trash. No investigation. They line up everyone. 10 push-ups each. Then again. Then again. No explanation. No lecture. Just pain. The guilty one confesses on round 6. Doesn't matter. The push-ups continue. Because punishment isn't about guilt. It's about ownership. You will own every mistake. Even ones you didn't make. especially the ones you didn't make. You wake up one morning to your boots missing. A test. You know it instantly. You find them outside, filled with sand. The instructor watches you put them on, doesn't say a word. But when you stand in formation, he walks behind you, leans close, and whispers, "Clean them, then run. 1 hour." You nod. You don't ask why, because you know why, because that's the language. You carry another recruit's pack on a march because he rolled his ankle. They make you do double rations cleanup for helping without permission. You sit in the wrong seat during mess. Doesn't matter that there are no assigned seats. You get punished anyway, because they needed to teach someone something, and today it's you. You start to memorize every kind of punishment. The distance penalty marches until your knees swell. The silent hour where you stand at attention for 60 minutes straight, unmoving, unspeaking. The mud pits special, fall in, crawl out, fall in again. Even the punishments have names, nicknames. Whispers pass through the bunks like haunted folklore. Don't screw up inspection or you'll get the window cleaner. That's where they make you clean every window on base inside and out with toilet paper. You laugh the first time you hear it. Then it's your turn. By the end, your hands are red. Your back is broken. And the sergeant pats you on the shoulder like he just taught you to read. He did. Because now you understand. You speak the language. One night, Harris says, "I think they keep inventing punishments." You nod. Because it's true. The punishments get creative. You mop the floor with your shirt. You carry a broom as your new best friend for a week. You're told to yell compliments at a rock formation. Why? Because discipline isn't the point. Control is. They punish you until you stop questioning. They punish you until you accept it before they say it. Until your body reacts before your mind catches up. Until pain becomes background noise and punishment becomes routine. You stop asking why. You stop expecting fairness. Because fairness doesn't exist in this world. Only order. Only silence. Only this brutal dialect of consequence and compliance. One day, you get punished for nothing. Truly nothing. You stood where you were told. You did what was expected. Still, you're made to run. You get it now. This is punctuation. A period at the end of a day. A reminder that nothing here is earned. Nothing is safe. Not even you. You run. And with every step, the Legion speaks to you in its only true voice. Punishment. And your answer. You keep running. Because that's how you say, "I understand." There's a sound that doesn't exist in the Legion. Not because it's impossible, but because it's unwelcome. Crying. You don't hear it. Not in the bunks. Not on the field. Not in the night when the wind howls through the open windows and the walls seem to breathe with exhaustion. No one cries here. Not where you can see them. And that silence, it's not peace. It's pressure. Because everyone feels it, the pain, the fear, the slow unravelling of your mind, but no one admits it. Not out loud, not with tears. You learn quickly, weakness doesn't get sympathy. It gets noticed. And being noticed is dangerous. You think about crying? Not always. But at the end of a march, when your skin is peeling under your pack straps and your toenails are turning black and falling off, it's there. That knot in your throat. That burning behind your eyes. But you bite it down. You hold it like a grenade with no pin. Because if someone sees, if someone hears, you'll be marked. And the Legion doesn't forget. The instructors won't mock you. They'll do something worse. They'll act like they care. They'll pull you aside, talk soft, ask questions. How are you feeling? Anything on your mind? You need a break? You say yes? You're gone by morning. Nobody says where. Nobody asks. Some think it's medical. Others think it's disciplinary. You start to believe it's just erasure. Crying doesn't make you weak. But here, crying makes you vulnerable. And vulnerability in the Legion is blood in the water. So you keep it in. You bury it. Like everything else. You see it in others. A guy sitting on his cot, staring at a letter from home, not reading it, just holding it. His hand trembles. His eyes shine for a second. Then he folds the paper, tucks it into his pillow, and walks out like nothing happened. You never ask what it said. He never offers. Another recruit gets news from home. Death in the family. He's quiet for 3 days, does his drills, eats his rations, says nothing. Then one night you hear something, not a sob, not wailing, just breathing too fast, too shallow. You get up to use the latrine. You pass the shower stall. He's in there. Lights off. Water not running. Just sitting in the dark. Crying. Barely. Just enough. You keep walking. Because what would you say? Because you've done it too. You find places to break. Alone. Corners of the base. Behind the barracks. Inside a storage room with the mop handles and the bleach and the too loud radio playing static. You sit. You breathe. You don't make a sound. If you do cry, you time it. You make sure no one will come looking, because if they find you, if they see you, then you've lost something you won't get back. Dignity here isn't pride. It's armour. It's the thin, fragile shell that lets you keep going when everything inside is bleeding. So nobody cries where anyone can see, but everybody cries. Later. In pieces. Sometimes in your sleep. You wake up with wet cheeks and no memory of the dream. Sometimes you cry during drills, not with tears, but in your body. The way your knees buckle. The way your chest convulses when they make you run for hours without water. It looks like fatigue. It is fatigue. But it's grief too. Grief for who you were. For what you thought this would be. For the person who thought they were strong enough. There's a guy number 179. Strong, quiet, sharpshooter. One day he just stops responding. Not physically. Mentally. He does the tasks. But he doesn't speak. They notice. They try to reach him. He doesn't react. Then they punish him. Still no reaction. Then he disappears. That night the barracks is silent. Not out of fear. Out of mourning. But no one says his name. No one says anything. Because sadness in the Legion is dealt with like a landmine. You step around it. You avoid it. You keep your distance and hope it doesn't blow. You don't talk about what hurts. You don't cry about what's gone. You just keep marching. Because that's what everyone else is doing. And if you fall behind for even a second, you're the next one to vanish. So you learn the truth. You can cry. You just do it with your fists clenched, with your face buried in a pillow that smells like sweat and mould, with your head under the water in the sink, pretending you're just rinsing off. You cry where no one can see, where no one can hear, and when you're done, you dry your eyes, you lace your boots, you step back into sunlight, and no one ever knows. Because that's how you survive. In silence. In secret. In tears you'll never admit. You thought marching was walking. It's not. Walking is civilian. Walking is for cities and sidewalks on Sunday mornings. Walking is what people do when they have somewhere to go. Marching is what the Legion does when they want to break you. There's no destination. There's no arrival. There's only distance. And pain. And the weight on your back whispering that it's never going to end. The first time they take you out, it's already hot before sunrise. They don't give you a map. Just a number. 20 kilometres. You think, that's not so bad. You're wrong. Because the number is a lie. 20 on paper becomes 27 with terrain. 30 with weather. 35 when you factor in extra loops for mistakes that haven't even happened yet. You're told to pack your rucksack. Standard issue. Only essentials. You load it. Water. MREs. A change of socks. Rifle. Ammunition. Shovel. Medical kit. Sandbag. Why? Don't ask. Spare parts you don't recognise. Extra weight. Just in case. By the time you're done, your pack weighs over 30 kilograms. Your boots are laced tight enough to cut off circulation. Your shoulders ache before you even step off. Then they yell, "Marches!" And you go. Not in neat rows. Not in some parade ground formation. You walk like ghosts in a file. Each step kicks up dust. Each breath brings the taste of rust and fatigue. You start slow, deliberate, disciplined. 5 kilometres in, someone is limping. 7 kilometres, someone collapses. They don't stop for him. You never stop for anyone. They toss him on the back of a transport like cargo. No words, no sympathy. You just keep moving. Your thighs burn. Your lower back spasms. Your socks are wet always. At 10 kilometres you don't feel your feet anymore. Just fire. Blisters burst inside your boots with every step. You don't care, because if you stop they'll drag you behind the convoy, and no one wants that. That's the march of shame. Strapped to the tailgate, eyes down, riding like a failure. You march until your thoughts blur, until the only words in your head are left, right, breathe, endure. There's no conversation. Talking wastes energy. You grunt. You sweat. You shift your pack and curse the weight of every unnecessary item. You start to bargain with yourself. Just to the next hill. Just to that tree. One more step. And you keep going. Because there's no alternative. This is the Legion. And the Legion marches. Forever. You hear stories from the veterans. Marches through the Alps. Marches through the Sahara. Marches that lasted days, not hours. They tell you about the one in Djibouti. 60 kilometres. Midday heat. One canteen. One guy didn't make it. Heat stroke. Heart attack. Both. No one remembers. Just another number removed from the roster. But the story lives on. A warning, a lesson, a promise. You think your body will quit, but it doesn't. Your mind tries first. Whispers. Fake an injury. Fall. Take the ride. But your legs just keep moving. Because they're not yours anymore. They belong to the Legion now. At the 15-kilometre mark you feel a tear in your calf. Tiny. Burning. You walk anyway. At 18 kilometres your shoulders numb. You tighten your strap. At 21 you start hallucinating. You see trees where there are none. Water glinting on rocks that are just more dust. A voice calling your name that turns out to be wind. You don't tell anyone. They just send you back or forward with punishment for lack of mental preparedness. You keep marching. The road becomes a blur. Your feet move without asking. Your body becomes the march, a rhythm of agony and muscle memory. And then it ends, not with a trumpet, not with applause. Just a grunt from the instructor, a nod, You drop your pack, sit down on the dirt, feet throbbing, knees ruined, back twisted. You made it, and it means nothing, because tomorrow you do it again. Maybe 20 kilometers, maybe 50. They won't tell you. They want to see who breaks without warning, and someone always does. One recruit refuses to move the next day, legs swollen, feet black with infection. They leave him behind. Medics will check on him eventually. The rest of you march, because the Legion doesn't wait. Not for injuries, not for weakness, not for anyone. You hear the cadence in your sleep, the rhythm of boots, the crunch of gravel, the sting of sweat in your eyes. You wake up already marching, even when you're standing still, even when you're home someday and the war is over and the sand is out of your boots. You'll still feel it, because the march never really ends. Marches are forever. You came here with a name, a past, a story. None of that matters now. The moment you stepped off the bus onto Legion soil and were handed a number instead of a handshake, you stopped being you, and you started becoming something else. Not a man, not a recruit. A uniform, and to build that, they have to break what's underneath, piece by piece. At first, it feels like standard discipline. No talking, no phones, no freedom. You think it's boot camp, that it'll pass. It doesn't, because this isn't training, it's transformation. They take your clothes, every last civilian thread. You wear what they give you. Same shirt, same pants, same boots, too small, too stiff, too identical to the guy next to you. Then your hair, gone, not trimmed, erased. You look in the mirror and already see it. The first layer of you is gone. Soon they take your voice. Because you speak out of turn, you're punished. You speak in your native tongue? Punished harder. They want one language here, obedience. You speak when spoken to. You answer with your number, not your name. You say yes even when you mean no. And you stop asking why. Because there is no why. Only yes, Sergeant, and understood. The next thing they take is your time. It doesn't belong to you. You sleep when told. Eat when allowed. Shit under supervision. There's no free time. No hobbies. No idle thought. If you're sitting, you should be cleaning. If you're standing, you should be running. If you're breathing, you better make sure it's in step. You become hyper-aware of everything. Not because you want to be, because you have to be. The wrong button undone, push-ups. Shoelace untied, run laps. Stand an inch off from formation, start over. You become obsessed with precision. It's not pride, it's survival. They aren't moulding you into a soldier. They're erasing the civilian, and civilians don't belong here. You once had opinions, now you wait to be told what to think. You once had questions, now you wait for orders. You once had dreams, now you sleep only to forget. They take your habits too. No more coffee at 9 a.m, no more music in your ears, no more comfort. Everything that made you feel like a person, filed off. Even your walk changes. No hands in pockets, no slouching, no swagger. You march, back straight, eyes forward, shoulders squared. You don't walk like you anymore. You walk like them. You watch the transformation happen in others too. One guy used to laugh all the time. Now he stares at walls like they're whispering orders. Another guy used to write letters home every Sunday. Then one day he stopped, burned the paper, never mentioned his family again. It happened slowly, one routine at a time, one order at a time, one humiliation at a time. You fail inspection, They empty your locker onto your bed, rip your bedding apart, dump your shaving kit and your shoes. You're made to reassemble it perfectly in under 5 minutes. Then they time you again. Because perfection once isn't enough. It has to be automatic here. Every failure is a chance for them to remind you, you are not a person. You are a uniform, a number in boots, a shadow in sync with other shadows, a tool. And tools don't cry. They don't complain. They don't dream. They function. But here's the terrifying part. Eventually, you stop missing who you were. You start to like the silence, the routine, the clarity. There's no confusion here, no decisions to make, no doubts. Just rules, tasks, consequences. Freedom becomes a memory, one you don't even trust anymore. Because back then you were soft, unformed, weak. Now you're solid, sharpened, stripped to function. You look in the mirror one night, not to admire, just to check. And what you see, not a man, not a soul, just the outline of something that belongs to them, to this place, to the Legion. You button your shirt, tuck it tight, align the insignia. You don't smile. There's nothing to smile about. But you feel it. That strange, cold pride. Because you've been broken. And now you fit. In the beginning, it's all you think about. Home. You carry it with you like a secret. A photograph in the bottom of your footlocker. A name scribbled on the back of your helmet. A smell in the air that for one brief second reminds you of somewhere warm. Somewhere safe. You count the days. Tell yourself, just a few more weeks, just until training ends, just until my contract is up. But then something shifts. Not all at once, not even with warning. It happens slowly, quietly. The first time you forget to check the calendar. The first time you dream in French instead of your native tongue. The first time you get a letter from home, read it, fold it, and forget it on your bunk. You start to realize the Legion doesn't just take your body, it takes your sense of belonging. At first, going home is motivation. Later, it's a distraction. You start to see it in the others. One guy from Belgium, he used to talk about his sister all the time. Every night her name would come up. Her birthday, her favourite food, her laugh. Then one day he stopped. Didn't mention her. Didn't write. Didn't open the package when it came. Someone asked if he was okay. He just said, she's not part of this anymore. And that's what the Legion teaches you. There's no outside world. No one is coming. No one understands. No one can understand. You try writing a letter once, back home, to someone who used to matter. You start strong. A greeting, a few jokes, some small updates. But then you stop. Because how do you explain what you've become? How do you write? Today I watched a man pass out from heat stroke when we left him behind. Or, I haven't cried in 6 months, but I dream about drowning every night. You realise there's no point. So you fold the letter, half written. You burn it, like the old version of yourself. There's a phrase you hear from time to time, usually whispered by the older Legionnaires. The Legion is home. You hate it at first, because it feels like surrender, like they've forgotten who they were, like they've given up. But later you understand it, because you're not going home. Not really. Even if you survive your contract, even if you get your papers, even if you buy the ticket, board the flight, land back in your old life, it won't be you walking through that door. It'll be someone else. Someone quieter, harder, colder. You'll walk into a room full of familiar faces and feel like a ghost, because they'll expect the old version of you. And he's gone. He didn't survive Castelnaudary. He didn't make it past Aubagne. He bled out in the desert, or froze on a mountain, or vanished during a 50-kilometre march under a broken sky. What came back is Legion. And Legion doesn't go home. Legion waits. Even when it leaves, it doesn't leave you. You talk less now, even during rest. You keep your head down, your gear packed, your eyes on the ground. People outside ask, "What's it like in there?" You never answer, because how could you explain it? That going home stopped being a goal. It became a myth. A story you tell yourself when your knees are collapsing and your hands are blistered and your soul is tired. You think, one day I'll be free, but you don't believe it. Because even freedom looks suspicious now. Too quiet, too soft, too slow. Home has pillows. Here, you sleep on rocks. Home has kindness. Here, kindness is weakness. Home has mirrors. Here, you don't look too long. One day, during gear check, a recruit gets caught daydreaming. The sergeant asks what he was thinking about. The recruit says, "My girlfriend." The room goes dead silent. The sergeant nods, then orders him to run the perimeter 10 times, full kit, in the rain. When he returns soaked and shivering, the sergeant says, "Whoa. Think of the Legion next time. She won't wait. We will." And that's the truth. You stop thinking about going home, because the Legion is the only thing that stays. It doesn't love you. It doesn't need you. But it keeps you. And one day, when you finally step outside the gate, civilian clothes, passport in hand, you'll hesitate. You'll wonder if it was worth it. If you really escaped, then you'll feel the weight of your boots even if they're not on your feet. You'll smell sand when there's none around. You'll stand straighter, scan every room, and answer questions with numbers in your head instead of words. And you'll realise you didn't go home. You brought the Legion with you. They don't tell you. Not officially. Not in the handbook. Not in orientation, if you can even call standing in the rain while an instructor screams in 4 languages an orientation. But you start to notice. Because they were here one day and gone the next. The ones who break, they come in all shapes, all nationalities, some loud, some silent. Some you think will last forever, all muscle and swagger and stories from back home. They don't. You watch it happen in phases. First comes the quiet. They start talking less, missing jokes, not laughing, staring at nothing for minutes at a time like they're listening for a sound only they can hear. Next, the mistakes boots unlaced, rifle smudged, wrong answer during roll call, late to formation by 5 seconds, which might as well be 5 hours in the Legion. Punishments come fast, hard, unrelenting. You see it in their eyes, they're already elsewhere, thinking about home, thinking about running, thinking about ending it. Then the injuries start. Not the usual cuts and bruises, those are trophies. No, these are different. Twisted ankles that don't seem twisted. Back spasms that conveniently strike right before a night drill. Mysterious stomach cramps. Some are real, most aren't, but no one questions it. Because when someone's breaking, the last thing you want to do is pull them apart faster. Then comes the moment. The one you always remember. One day, they're just gone. Bunk empty. Name missing from the list. No ceremony, no goodbye. Not a word. You might ask. No one answers. Even the instructors avoid your eyes. Because what happens to the ones who break? Depends. Some are quietly discharged, sent away with papers stamped and bags packed. Others, they disappear into Section d'Isolement, the isolation unit. You don't talk about that place. You don't go near it. A few guys came back from there. Different. Eyes blank. Movements stiff. Mouths shut. They didn't last long after that. Disappeared again, this time for good. You hear stories. Not official ones. Just whispers. Of someone who jumped the wall and tried to make it to Marseille. Caught by police. Dragged back. Not to the base. To somewhere deeper. You never see him again. There's the guy from Kazakhstan who just walked into the desert during a training exercise. Took his canteen. Left his pack. Gone. They searched for a few hours. Then shrugged. No panic. No drama. The Legion accepts loss the way most people accept the weather. Then there are the ones who crack but stay. The slow unravel. They go through the motions, drills, meals, formations, but there's nothing behind the eyes. They're ghosts in boots. You wonder if you're next. You start watching yourself, monitoring your own breakdown like a patient trying to diagnose their own disease. You ask, did I smile today? Did I think about running? Did I feel anything at all? You learn to fake it. That's part of survival. Because sometimes the Legion doesn't remove the broken. Sometimes it uses them. Because a man with nothing left, he obeys. He doesn't question, doesn't complain. He shoots. He runs toward the pain, and the Legion loves that. There's a phrase they use. Plus utile bris. More useful broken. You believe it. You see a guy number 207 who stopped speaking for 3 days. Then, on day 4, he completed the obstacle course twice. Volunteered for extra duty. Carried 2 packs on a 30k march. They didn't punish him. They promoted him. Made him team lead. Because the Legion doesn't need stable men. It needs reliable weapons. And the broken, they don't jam. They fire until they're empty. Then they reload. You think about breaking sometimes. In the dark. Alone. When you're not sure where the Legion ends and you begin. You think, maybe if I cried hard enough they'd send me home. Maybe if I screamed they'd lock me up instead of sending me back into the heat. But you don't. Because the truth? You're already broken. You just haven't collapsed yet. And if you do, you won't tell anyone. Because once you're marked, once they know you're slipping, you're not a soldier. You're a liability. And in the Legion, liabilities disappear. That's the rule. So you nod. You march. You eat. You sleep. You survive. And you don't ask what happened to the ones who broke. Because you already know. It doesn't happen overnight. At first you fight it. You resist the pain. You curse the cold, the heat, the weight, the orders that make no sense. You tell yourself it's temporary. A phase. A challenge to overcome. You imagine the day it ends. The day you leave. The day you laugh at all this. But the day doesn't come. Because in the French Foreign Legion, suffering isn't a test. It's the environment. It's the method. It's the point. And somewhere along the way, something in you snaps. And you start to like it. Not all at once. Not in some glorious, defiant moment. It creeps in. One blister at a time. One missed meal. One sleepless night staring at the ceiling while your stomach eats itself from the inside. You start to notice things. You don't hate the burn in your legs during a march, you measure it. You don't fear the cold anymore, you welcome it. Because if you're shivering, it means you're still alive. You start to see the others differently too. Not by their smiles or their words, but by how much they can carry. You respect the guy who says nothing while his feet bleed into his boots. The one who finishes his push-ups even after his arm gives out. The one who limps to the chow hall with a twisted knee and doesn't complain once. These are your role models now, because Legion life teaches you fast. Pain is purity. You know exactly what you've done at the end of the day, not because someone says good job. They never do. You know because your muscles ache, because your uniform is soaked through, because your fingernails are black with dirt. You wear your suffering like a badge, and eventually you want more. You don't wait to be told. You volunteer. Extra drills, extra loads, extra shifts. Because pain means you're still getting sharpened. And in a place like this, staying sharp is the only way to survive. You remember how you used to flinch when an instructor screamed in your face. Now, you stare back, eyes empty, unmoved. Not out of defiance, out of focus. Because suffering taught you something the world outside never could. Comfort is a lie. Comfort makes you weak. Comfort dulls your instincts. Comfort is the thing that nearly killed you when you first arrived. That voice in your head whispering, "This isn't fair. This isn't right." Now, you don't hear that voice anymore. You've replaced it with one that says, "Good, more. Keep going. This pain is where I grow." One night the rain comes hard. Not a shower, a deluge. The barracks flood. The beds are soaked. Everyone's gear is floating in cold, muddy water. There's no rescue. No apologies. You're told to stand outside while they inspect damage. That takes hours. You stand there soaked, freezing, miserable. Then Harris starts laughing. No one understands why. He just looks at the sky, drenched to the bone, and laughs like a man who's cracked. Then someone else joins him. Then another. You stand there, lips blue, water running down your spine, and you start laughing too. Not because it's funny, because there's nothing else to do, because you've embraced it. You've learned to love it. The suffering isn't beside your life here. It is your life. And once you accept that, things get easier. You don't need hope. You don't need escape. You just need the next step, the next mission, the next bruise. They send you on a long march the next day. You don't groan. You tighten your laces. They assign you latrine duty after a night watch. You don't whine. You grab the brush. They take your free time to make you dig a trench that already exists. You dig it anyway, because you get it now. They're not punishing you. They're polishing you. Every act of pointless suffering, a lesson. Every grunt of exertion, a hymn. Every hour of sleep you lose, every meal you miss, every time you fall and get up again. That's how you earn your place here. That's how you prove you're no longer a civilian. You're Legion. And Legionnaires, we don't endure suffering. We wear it. Like armour. Like religion. Like purpose. You remember sleep. Back home, it was routine. 8 hours, maybe more. A mattress, a pillow, a blanket tucked under your chin. You'd roll over, check your phone, sigh, close your eyes. Luxury, taken for granted. Here, in the Legion, sleep is currency. It's earned, traded, stolen, and never, ever guaranteed. The first thing they do is take it away. Not all at once. Not obviously. It starts with shortened nights. Lights out at 2200. Wake up at 0400. Then 0330. Then 0200. Then none. You spend 36 hours awake on purpose. Why? Because You might have to one day. Because war doesn't come with a bedtime. Because exhaustion is a filter. It shows who you really are when the strength is gone and only reflexes left. You hallucinate during night watch. Shadows move when they shouldn't. A tree looks like a man. The moon becomes a second sun. You blink hard. Don't say anything. If you tell them you're seeing things, they'll fix it. With more drills. You sit during a 5-minute break and try to close your eyes, not to rest. Just to escape. But someone yells. Or someone drops a tool. Or someone else sees you with your eyelids down and reports you. Because sleep here isn't just rest. It's vulnerability. And that's dangerous. You learn to sleep fast. Anywhere. In trucks. In dirt. On a rock. Leaning against a rifle stock. You nap between orders. You catch 5 minutes during equipment checks. You sleep standing up in the back of formation, eyes open, body swaying gently like a dead branch in the wind. It becomes a game. You and Harris once timed yourselves. How long does it take to fall asleep when you hit the ground? Your record 11 seconds, and you're up again. Because instructors don't care about your fatigue. If anything, they smell it like wolves, and they test it. They wake you in the middle of the night. Just because. Room inspection. Or gear shuffle. Or 2 a.m. run to keep discipline. You stand there half dreaming, boots on the wrong feet, helmet backwards, and you move anyway. Because the body remembers what the mind can't. You forget your own dreams. You used to dream of oceans, girls, food. Now, you dream of a full night, of silence, of uninterrupted dark. Then you wake and it's always the same. Exhaustion like gravity. But you keep going. Because everyone else is just as tired. And no one's quitting. Some guys hoard sleep. On weekend rotations, if you get a few hours free, you find them, curled in corners, under bunks, inside lockers, anywhere dark. One guy, number 221, built a cocoon of blankets in the storage shed. Called it the coffin. He slept there for 4 hours once. Woke up crying. Not because of a dream. Because that was the first time in weeks he'd felt what REM sleep was like. Another guy got 5 straight hours on a field deployment. Called it better than sex. No one disagreed. You realise something. Sleep isn't about rest anymore. It's about sanity. You feel yourself fraying at the edges when it's gone too long. Your temper shortens. Your vision narrows. Your hands shake while loading magazines. You forget numbers you've known for weeks. But the instructors? They don't flinch. They want you tired. A rested recruit is calculating it, and a tired one is honest. You say what you mean. You move on instinct. You learn what's under your skin. Some guys break in the sleep deprivation phase. They stop moving, stop responding, go limp. It's not rebellion, it's overload. They're pulled out quietly. No shame. Just a silent understanding. They reach the limit. You start rationing your sleep like food. 10 minutes after mess, nap. Waiting for weapons check, nap. Truck ride to the range, eyes closed, arms folded, head back, nap. Even 5 minutes matters. Sleep debt adds up. You borrow time from your own health, and someday the interest comes due. Your immune system collapses. You get sick, but don't tell anyone. There's no sick in the Legion. Just weakness and punishment for it. So, you nap when you can. You dream when you don't mean to. You wake unsure of the date, sometimes unsure of the country. One night, Harris leans over from his bunk and says, "I dreamed I was home." You nod. Then ask, "Did you stay?" He says, "No, I came back." Because even in dreams, this place owns you now. and you accept it, because sleep is currency here, and in the Legion you never get paid in full. When you first arrive at the gates of the French Foreign Legion, they ask for your name. You give it. They nod. Then they give you a number. That's the last time your name matters. From that point forward, you're not John, not David, not Sergei or Ali or Marco. You're 143, or 017, or 222. And it sticks. It replaces you. More permanent than a tattoo, colder than a nickname. Numbers don't carry the weight of your history. They don't care who you were. They don't ask what you did. They don't remember your sins or your glories or the sound of your mother's voice when she said goodbye. A name holds all of that. A number? A number is just function. And in the Legion, that's all you are. A function. You try to resist it at first. You whisper your name to yourself when no one's listening. You write it on the inside of your boot flap just to see it. You hold on to it like it's a lifeline, a thread connecting you to who you were. But over time, it fades. Your name feels foreign in your mouth. Heavy. Wrong. Someone says it in a dream and it doesn't feel like you anymore. The number is what sticks. They call it out during roll call, during drills, during punishments. 143 down, 017 faster, 222 you missed the shot. Every order carves it deeper. You hear it more than your thoughts. And eventually, when someone calls out your old name, if anyone ever does, you hesitate. It feels like being mistaken for a stranger. Because that person, the one who owned that name, he didn't survive basic. He didn't make it through the mud, the heat, the screaming. He didn't crawl on his elbows through barbed wire while rounds cracked overhead. He didn't carry 40 kilos of steel and sand through the desert with blistered hands and swollen knees. Your number did. You did, as a number. Because a number doesn't feel pain. A number doesn't complain. A number doesn't get homesick or fall in love or doubt the mission. A number follows orders. That's the Legion's philosophy. No identities. No distractions. Just a uniform with a brain and a trigger finger. You see it in others too. Someone stumbles, and instead of saying "Help Harris," someone shouts, "Help 231." Another recruit faints on a march, and you hear, "Pull 056 to the truck." No one says, "Is he okay?" No one says, "That's Thomas." Because Thomas doesn't exist anymore. Just 056. And 056 is a liability today. Tomorrow he might be a weapon again. But today, he's a number that failed. So they record it. Quietly. Efficiently. Numbers don't die with drama. They just disappear from the list. One day you hear about a guy who went AWOL, escaped during mess duty, tried to swim across a river in the dark, didn't make it. They found his boots on the bank. Nothing else. No name. Just 248 missing. Later you hear a new recruit got 248. And that's that. In the Legion, a number is recycled. But a name is buried. You think back to your first week, the name they erased. The one they made you say goodbye to, day, because someone forgot their locker key. It's get up and run day, again. Still. Birthdays pass like shadows. Someone mutters, "I'm 26 today," while scrubbing a toilet with a toothbrush. No one celebrates. No one even pauses. Time has no authority here. Only the Legion does. You stop asking what day it is because the answer changes nothing. Whether it's Tuesday or Friday or the 4th of July, you're still in boots, still eating grey stew, still pushing your body until your lungs rattle in your chest. There are no weekends. You forget what they feel like. Back home, the weekend had texture. Late mornings, music in the background, hot coffee and no urgency. Now, every day is mission. Every hour is borrowed. Every minute is another coin in the meter of your sanity ticking down. At some point, someone says it's Christmas. You blink. Oh! That night you get the same meal, same schedule, same drills. Maybe one of the officers leaves a chocolate bar on your tray. Maybe not. You learn to ignore holidays the same way you ignore pain. Not because it doesn't matter, because it hurts less if it doesn't. Time here becomes a blur. You stop remembering what day of the week it is. Then you stop remembering the month. Then the year becomes fog. It could be 2023. It could be 2033. It makes no difference. You measure time differently now. In kilometres, in push-ups, in cigarettes shared behind the shed at midnight, eyes sunken, voices hushed. One recruit says he's been here 6 months. You ask him how he knows. He shrugs. I counted the times I changed socks. That's the kind of math you learn here. You don't count birthdays. You count bruises. You don't count weekends. You count rotations, punishments, letters from home, the ones you don't open anymore. Even your body joins the lie. Your circadian rhythm surrenders. Sleep comes in slices, 2 hours here, 30 minutes there. Your appetite disappears and returns in strange waves, never aligning with meals. You live in the moment. Not like the motivational posters say, but because the moment is all you can carry. You stop planning. No next week. No next month. No when this is over. The Legion kills the future and buries it under drills. You exist now. Now you are running. Now you are holding your rifle. Now you are digging. Now you are eating. What day is it? Doesn't matter. Because the day doesn't belong to you. It belongs to the Legion. And when they finally hand you papers, when your time is up and you're standing outside the gates in civilian clothes staring at a world that never paused for you, you'll still feel it. That float in your brain. The calendar spinning without anchor. You'll glance at your phone, see the date, and it won't register. It's just a number. And don't believe in numbers anymore. Not those ones. Not the ones on the clock or the calendar or your phone. Only the one they gave you. The one they yelled during every roll call. The one that defined your every moment. That number? You remember forever. But the days are gone. Because in the Legion, you stop asking what day it is. At first, the silence feels unnatural. You come in with noise, the chatter of your native tongue, jokes with other recruits. Questions, always questions. Where are you from? Why did you join? What do you think comes next? You answer, because you think talking makes it better. That words can cut through the fear, the fatigue, the feeling that everything in your life just flipped upside down. But the Legion doesn't care for talking, and neither do the men who last. So eventually the noise fades, and the silence moves in. Not just around you, inside you. At first it's awkward. You don't know what to say. You don't know if you can say anything. Then you get punished for saying the wrong thing, or for saying anything at all. So you learn. Fast. You shut your mouth. You nod when spoken to. You respond with numbers, not words. And slowly you understand. Silence is yes. It's armor. A way to protect yourself in a place where every word is a risk. You watch the loud ones break first. The talkers. The ones who boast. The ones who gossip. The ones who ask too many questions. they get singled out, mocked, punished, and go quiet, or they... You stand straighter, you breathe slower, you don't fidget, don't twitch, don't react. You become a stillness in a world of chaos. Instructors scream, you remain blank. Alarms go off, you move, not because of panic, but because that's what you've trained to do. You hear the new guys whisper at night. Their bunk creaks with nervous energy. They haven't learned yet, but you have. You sleep in silence, wake in silence, eat in silence. You march beside men you've known for 6 months and still don't know their real names. But that doesn't matter, because you've seen them bleed, heard them gasp for breath on a mountain at 3 a.m, watched them fall, get up and fall again without ever asking for help. You don't need words to know them. You trust their silence more than any speech. One night someone tries to start a story. He says, "Back home I used to," but you're already tuning out. Not because you don't care, but because that world isn't real anymore. Not here. Not now. You're not a storyteller. You're not a man with a past. You're a legionnaire. And legionnaires are built in quiet. Even pain is silent here. You injure your ankle. You don't speak. You get sick. You don't speak. You lose a friend in training. You don't speak. Because no one wants to hear it. Not out of cruelty. Out of survival. Emotion is weight. And the more weight you carry inside, the more likely you are to collapse. Silence helps you stay light. Stay sharp. Stay invisible when it counts. You find silence in the noise too. The rattle of gunfire. The hum of boots in formation. The shouting of instructors. It all becomes a soundscape white noise you move through without reacting. Inside that noise your mind stays still, like the eye of a storm. That's where the real Legion lives, in that space. That cold, unshakable stillness where you don't flinch. You don't argue. You don't fantasize. You just endure. Silence becomes not just your shield. It becomes your language. You speak it fluently. And when you leave the Legion, if you ever do, you carry that silence with you. In crowded rooms, you don't speak unless needed. In arguments, you observe. In grief, you hold it in. Because the world moved on while you were gone. And it talks too much. Moves too fast. Mistakes noise for meaning. But you know the truth now? Silence is power. It's control. It's what kept you standing when everyone else fell. And in the Legion, that's all that ever mattered. Pain used to be a warning. Back in your old life, if you bled, you stopped. You winced. You looked for help. A cut meant caution. A bruise meant retreat. An injury meant time off. A sick day, a soft excuse to reset. Not here. Not in the Legion. In the Legion, pain is a constant. And bleeding is background noise. It starts small. Blisters pop inside your boots on a march, you don't report it. You just keep going. The squish of fluid and blood in your socks becomes part of the rhythm. You slice your hand during a field exercise, crawling through barbed wire, wrap it in a dirty bandage, bite down and finish the course. You twist your wrist, falling off an obstacle, you tape it up and climb again. Because here, pain doesn't stop you. It identifies you. How you react to it is your real name. Flinch, you're marked. Hesitate, they'll see it. Cry out, you might as well have given up. The instructors are always watching, not for who's the strongest, not who runs the fastest. They're looking for who breaks first. And pain, real, sharp, sudden pain is the first test that doesn't lie. The first time you really bleed in the Legion, it's usually unexpected. For some, it's a split lip from a misstep during close quarters drills. For others, it's a fall during a night march, knee to open on a rock you didn't see coming. There's no warning, no pity. You look down, see the blood, and that's the moment that decides what happens next. Some stare at it, eyes wide, frozen. It's not the injury that gets them, it's the surprise. They weren't ready, but you learn quickly. In this place, you're always bleeding. Sometimes on the outside, sometimes on the inside. The only difference is whether you make it anyone else's problem. The guy who made it through Djibouti training without flinching, he broke his finger 3 times. Set it himself, once popped the bone back under the skin, taped it with 2 sticks, and kept marching. Didn't mention it for days. They found out only because he passed out from fever, bone infection. Still, they called him tough. Not smart, not safe, just tough. And in the Legion, that's the highest compliment. The funny thing is, after a while you start to forget what it felt like to not be in pain. You bleed from your feet. You bleed from your knuckles. You get nosebleeds from dehydration. You bite your cheek in your sleep and wake up with a taste of rust on your tongue. You stop noticing. Because bleeding doesn't mean something's wrong. It just means something's working hard enough to hurt. Your body becomes a map of little red lines. Cuts from rifle parts. Scratches from training run through thorns. Scabs that never finish healing because every day reopens them. You begin to admire it. Not the pain, but the resilience. Your flesh takes more than it ever did back home. And it still carries you forward. You don't ice anything, you don't rest. You tape, you wrap. You grit your teeth and you continue. Once during a drill, someone number 118 gets grazed across the shoulder during live fire. Not bad. A burn more than a puncture. But he drops, lets out a yelp. The instructor doesn't check on him. He walks over, looks down, says only this. You just told everyone you're prey. That stuck with everyone there. Not because it was cruel, because it was true. In the Legion, predators don't flinch. Not from bullets. Not from blood. Not from pain. You start to train yourself. They teach you the trick: breathe shallow, clench your jaw, redirect your focus. You control the reaction, not the injury. A nail rips through your glove, keep lifting. You twist an ankle in the mud, use the other leg more. You're bleeding from your scalp after a night crawl under razor wire. Wipe it. Tighten your helmet. Finish the course. Later, in the barracks, you clean it in silence. Sometimes another Legionnaire helps. No words. Just tape, antiseptic, maybe a nod. A silent agreement. You don't bleed in front of them. You bleed here. Quiet. Hidden. Respected. Because bleeding without flinching, that's how you tell them, I'm still here. Still in the fight. Still Legion. Still dangerous. And now you're lying there, eyes closed. But sleep won't come easy. Not after this. Because somewhere in your mind, you're still marching. Still hearing orders barked in a language you never truly learned. Still tasting blood and sand and metal on your tongue. You came here to escape, to disappear, to be forgotten. But the Legion, it remembers everything. It marks you, breaks you, builds you into something else. And when it's done, you're not a man anymore. You're a shadow. A weapon. A ghost that never flinches, never forgets, and never, ever goes home. So, if you're thinking about joining, thinking this life might fix you, save you, give you purpose, just remember this. You wouldn't last a day. Not because you're weak, but because this place doesn't care if you are. It just swallows you whole and spits out what's left. If you made it this far, give a like. subscribe if you haven't already. It helps us keep telling stories like this, the ones that don't get told, the ones you feel in your chest. Now close your eyes again. The desert is quiet now. Your boots are still. But the Legion never sleeps.